Welcome to Brick by Brick, Building Wealth Through Homeownership. I am Kim Von Dohren, your Realtor.
And I'm your banker, Ed Marko.
So we had a question and they asked if we would address this as a topic. And this is around, should I pay additional on my principal on my mortgage each month? And subsequent to that question was, if I'm able to pay off my mortgage, should I pay my mortgage off in full? And so these are the questions they'd like us to address. Now, I know you and I kind of touched on this in previous conversations where we addressed, should you pay more than your monthly payment amount on your mortgage and why? But let's revisit that conversation. And where do you land, Ed, on should I pay towards my principal when I'm paying monthly? How should I pay it? Should I pay it every month? Should I pay it more frequently? Should I pay it one time a year? And let's just see where you weigh in.
So on my primary residence, the answer is different for a primary residence than it is for an investment property. So for the sake of the question, I'm going to say that we're talking about a primary residence. The shortest answer to this is yes. You should pay off that mortgage as quickly as possible, right away if you can. That's your primary mortgage on your primary residence. And the reason for that is that now you have 100% equity and you could get a home equity line of credit, put the rest of that house to work for you. And we'll talk about that, or we did talk about that in a previous podcast. We could talk about that again if you'd like to. But the answer is yes, pay it off as quickly as possible. Now, having said that, I'm not in a hurry to pay off my mortgage because of a super low interest rate. And I can take the money that I would use to pay off that mortgage and put it to work someplace else. I just have a super low interest rate. If you've got a very low interest rate, you might want to just leave that alone because it's not costing you very much money.
What would you say is a low interest rate?
I would say anything under 4% is a super low interest rate. If you're at anything above that, you might not want to pay it off right away, but you definitely want to make additional principal payments. Personally, I think in months. I think in months and then I think in years in advance. So how is this month going to affect? I'm always thinking about when I'm going to retire. I'm building towards a very peaceful retirement.
Even though that's so far away for you still, because you're young.
It's well, it's not that far away. The point is though that I deal in months. I think in months. So I make an additional payment every month on my primary residence. When the interest rate was higher, I would pay as much as I could extra every month to reduce the amount that I owed. Because by reducing the amount that you owe, you reduce the amount of interest that you're paying because you only pay interest on the amount that you owe.
So that's the overall intention, right? Is if you pay more and you end the term sooner, you are consequently paying less interest.
Incredible amounts less, yeah, depending on if you manage it properly.
Okay. And one other thing I just want to clarify. You said you pay an additional payment each month. You're saying you pay double your payment?
No. Additional payment towards the principal.
So you pay an additional amount on top of what's owed.
Right. And most lenders, if you're going to pay your regular payment, and I would pay that, and then immediately after that, if you're paying online, you're going to go in and you're going to select the button that allows you to pay a principal payment. That's going to pay the principal payment. Because if you don't select that or let them know that you're paying a principal payment, they're going to assume that you're paying extra on your next mortgage payment that's due, and you're not going to get credited properly. So you'll always have to let them know, first pay your regular payment, and then either verbally at the bank, online, or however you're paying that payment, you want to make sure that it's on that payment that this is principal only. This is a principal payment.
Okay.
Against the amount owed, not against future payments or anything like that. You just want to reduce the principal amount owed.
Okay. So the goal would be to pay your primary residence sooner so that you are reducing the amount of interest you pay, plus it reduces the term of the loan, correct?
Correct. And thereby reducing your interest rate.
Right.
It actually has that long-term effect on it. It's not going to be a noticeable difference, except that you're going to pay off earlier. And that's how you see it.
And how much more should you pay?
I,
Minimally, how
Yeah.
much more? Let's start there.
Yeah.
So, okay, let's say you could pay a lot, but
Yeah.
if you can't, what's the minimum amount that'll really make an impact?
$100 a month will make a huge impact on most people's mortgage. Even if you've got a mortgage that's $3,000 a month, that $100 against the principal has a huge impact. The other thing that has an impact is paying it early, right?
Oh, we discussed this in
Right.
private. This is something you should mention to people.
Right. So you have to be careful when you're making a mortgage payment to make sure that it's going to get credited the day that you make the payment. Because if they credit it the day that you make the payment, you make them do that, they have to stop charging you interest on the principal amount that you've paid on that day. So if your payment's due on the 1st, but you're paying your mortgage on say the 20th, you've got, in most months, 10 days of interest on that principal reduction that you just made as part of your mortgage payment that they can't charge you interest on. So you're actually paying early has almost the same effect as paying extra.
What's paying early mean?
So if your payment is due on the 1st of the month, but you pay it on the 20th of the month before the 1st.
Okay, so
you've
you're
made
not
an
saying
early
paying it
payment.
late. You're saying I'm paying it on the 20th. That's really 10 days,
10 days
before it's
before
due.
it's due. Yes. Paying it 10 days before it's due, not late.
Right.
Well, it's a double-edged sword, though, too. People forget that. Oh, the bank will give you a 20-day grace period or a 10-day grace
Right.
period. So you think when you're paying it 9 days late, you're actually on time, and you're on time for not getting it,
Getting a late fee.
getting a late fee or hitting your credit report, but they're charging you extra interest for those 10 days. You've paid your 30 days interest. You're going to pay 30 days interest on the payment that's coming due 30 days from now. And during that 10-day overlap, you're paying an extra 10 days worth of interest on that money that you still owe.
Right.
So it will come back and haunt you if you don't pay it on time. Paying your mortgage payment on time is on time. Anything less than that is not on time.
Gotcha.
A day late is not on time.
Yeah.
You can delude yourself that you're in that, I'm in my 10 days, and you are, and that's great, but you're going to pay. You just paid me an extra day's interest. Do it again. Just paid me an extra 2 days
the
interest.
bank
Do
loves
it again.
Yeah.
That's why we do it.
Yeah. The goal here is to not pay the bank more. And ultimately, you are not getting away with anything by paying it late and not paying a late fee. You are actually still paying them more than what you should have been paying them to begin with because you didn't pay on time.
Correct. And you will see that at the end of the loan, just like you will say paying early at the end of the loan.
Right.
It all comes out in the wash.
Yes. So the way I calculate for my purposes at times is and I'm going to bring this up so you can touch on this subject, is I calculate one monthly payment divided by 12. And then that way I add that amount to each month. And so that I pay one full extra payment per year, which is generally the recommendation. If you make one extra payment a year, why do they say that?
Well, people think that banks want you in debt, and we love lending you money, but we like getting the money back too.
Mm-hmm.
And the sooner we get it back, the sooner we can lend it again. So making that extra payment every year is going to shorten up your term remarkably. On a 30-year mortgage, traditionally, you're going to knock 5 to 10 years, depending on what your interest rate is, off of that mortgage. That's a lot.
Right.
That's not a little thing. That's a lot. Adding that extra 100, 200, 500, whatever you can afford, does the same thing. The more you put into it, the shorter the term is. And by shortening that term, you're saving all of that extra interest. It's just that simple. It's just math.
And then one subsequent question to that. If you're someone who escrows their taxes and their insurance into their mortgage payment, do you need to include that amount? So I'm just going to say for rough numbers, let's say my mortgage payment is $1,200 a month, but that's including my taxes and my insurance. Right. So that's actually not part of the principal.
Right.
So do I need to pay an extra $1,200 one time per year, or do I really only need to pay the principal amount divided by 12 and add that on.
Correct. No, that you exactly correct. So you're going to pay 1/12 of your what they call P&I, principal and interest payment. So if you got a $1,200 a month mortgage, 400 of that is taxes and insurance, 800 of it is actually mortgage. You're going to take that 800, divide by 12, pay that extra every month, or just pay it once a year, drop that extra 800 on it. But better yet, pay the whole 12 as a principal payment, and you'll even have better results.
Right.
You know,
The other tricky thing is people say pay on your mortgage every 2 weeks.
right? That's a pitfall I see a lot of people fall into. If
Ooh,
your
it's
mortgage,
a pitfall is what you're calling it.
well, because people don't think properly.
Okay.
They think
Okay.
if I pay my mortgage twice a month, I'll save money. So my payment's due on the 1st, I'll pay half of it on the 1st and half of it on the 15th.
Oops, that's the wrong way.
Right. What you just did was you just paid part of your mortgage on time and the other half late.
Yes.
So you're probably going to get a late fee, and you paid $15 or 15 days worth of interest
Right.
extra on half of your mortgage payment. So if you're going to pay your mortgage twice a month like that, you need to go into the branch, set it up so that it's set up properly. So you're probably going to make your payment that's due on the 1st, and then you're going to make a payment on the 15th, and then a payment on the 1st, half of it. And then from that point forward, half and half.
So the first month, it's going to be
double payment.
Yep, it's going to be tough.
Yeah, it's going to be hard.
So you have to do it when you have a little extra money or you've planned ahead to start that process.
Correct.
Yep. Great. That's great. Okay. I think this is extremely helpful to people because I think most people are curious about this and we probably just answered a lot of questions. But let me take you to the last part, which is, should I pay the entire thing off if I can?
So I think it depends on what your interest rate is and where you are in life and what you're doing. So if you're getting ready to retire and you want a simple life like I do, probably pay it off if you can. Just get it. No debt is my favorite kind of debt.
Right. That's partly true.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, yeah. However, if it's, again, in your primary residence, I'm only talking about a primary residence.
Right.
But again, if you've got a super low rate, you probably just want to let it go. I cannot, with good conscience, tell somebody to pay off a mortgage that's certainly under 3%. You would just be crazy to do that. You can take whatever money you have and put it in a CD, certificate of deposit, and get more than 3%.
You can right now.
Yeah. Yeah, right now. Yeah.
Yeah. That can change, but right now you can.
Yeah.
So, right. That would be, and that's probably the overarching philosophy is, where am I going to utilize this money that it's going to pay me the best rate?
Right.
Right. Is it leaving it in my 3% loan? Right. I'm going to leave that debt there and not take this cash I have and pay it off, because that doesn't make sense. Right. Because I can take that money and earn 5%. So I'm making an extra 2% that I would be missing out on if I paid off that mortgage.
Correct. And it doesn't sound like much, but it is a lot.
Yeah.
And for most people, let's say you owe $100,000 on your house and it's at 3% and you're getting ready to retire. Do you want to take $100,000 out of your portfolio? Maybe that's the only $100,000 that you have.
Right.
You might want to really rethink that. Put that in a very, very safe investment, like a certificate of deposit or bonds or something like that, and just continue to pay your mortgage. If you've got a pile of money and you're getting ready to retire and you just don't want to deal with it anymore, certainly pay it off.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the idea is to have no debt when it comes to things like that.
Right.
Again, we're not talking about investment properties.
Right.
That's a completely different answer.
Right. And that we'll touch on that another way, another day.
Yes.
All right. So I think that was extremely helpful.
Hope.
Thank you very much. I am Kim Von Dohren.
And I'm Ed Marko. You have been listening to Brick by Brick. Be sure and subscribe, post questions for future episodes, or comment. This is a Super Squirrel production, Super Squirrel Studios, Stony Creek Mills, Pennsylvania.